All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our online caregiver support group tonight. We thank you for tuning in. We're going to give a few minutes and allows you guys to come in. We know some of you look at it on the repeat, but we're going to give some time for you to come in, and we're glad that you're going to be joining us. We have a dynamic support group for you tonight with our special guest. This is hosted by the Center of Empowerment. We host monthly support groups for grief and loss and for caregivers. So on the second Thursday of every month, we have been doing this since about 2017, believe it or not. Our first, we did a caregiver's dream in 2719, where we took care of about four different caregivers. We pampered them, gave them a pamper of the day, and took care of them to give them a break and an opportunity to refresh. And since that time, we've continued taking care of. We care for the caregivers. So oftentimes they get forgotten, and caregivers incorporates. Sometimes your profession is a caregiver. You're a professional caregiver, right? Doctors, nurses, and etc. Teachers, that puts you in the category of a professional caregiver. Sometimes you're caregiving for your family that's ill, or your children, or you may be a homeschooling your children. And then what we learned during the pandemic, it really opened one's eyes to what caregiving was all about. When you had to stay home and take care of your family, right? And you wasn't getting out the house. It kind of opened up things for you with a different understanding. So welcome tonight to our online support group. And we want to say thank you. Center of Empowerment is a bridge of hope beyond solutions for families in transitions. And so with that simple, how do we do that? How do we do that? Go ahead, by the way, put your name in the chat and let us, well, not your name. I don't know why I keep saying put your name. Just put something in the chat and let us know that you're in. Tell us how you were invited. How about that? Let us know where you're checking in from and who invited you, just so that we know that you're there. And make sure you subscribe and share. Subscribe and share. We got a little bit of time before we start the actual group. So how did the Center of Empowerment, Inner Power Purpose, MEANT, come about? And so what is the Center of Empowerment? We impact the four cornerstones of life: relationships, health, work and providerships, emotional and spiritual development. And so how do we do that? Our mission and our mandate is to to destigmatize mental health, destigmatize mental health support, getting the support that you may need. Sometimes we see it as a negative, but we like to spin it and show you that there is a positive, right? What is mental health? So that's one of the things. So we do that. We at the Center of Empowerment, with support groups, we offer groceries. We deliver to the elderly and those that are disabled, those are unhoused, those that are facing food I don't know what's wrong with me with this stuttering tonight. Disparities. I know what's going on. I haven't done our intentional breath. That's what it is. Okay, come on. That's what's going on. Let's take our intentional breath. Yeah, because I have had a long day, y'all. It's raining in Southern California, and I've been out in the traffic all day today, from one end of town to the other, taking care of business and taking care of myself. All right, let's take a deep inhale. That will center us. Come on, inhale through the nose and hold. 2, 3, 4, and exhale through the mouth. Yeah, that's what we needed to do. Bring it centered and right into this moment. Take another deep inhale. Hold. 2, 3, and on 4, exhale through the mouth. See how I'm stretching that spine out? Yeah, that feels good. I always need that. It reminds us whom's and whose we are, and that we are not junk. That means we are divinely created to create divinely. We are in this moment to impart and impact your life in a way that is inspiring and uplifting, reminding you that you are empowered in purpose. There's no accidents. Come on, take another deep inhale. Hold and exhale. Come on, put your name in the chat or let me know where you're from. Let us know where you're from in the chat. We're going to go ahead and get this conversation started. We're going to bring to the stage our special guest tonight. We're glad to have him. We are appreciative that he has taken time out of his schedule to be with us. We got Zachary. Was Zachariah Moore? Did I say that right? Welcome, and thank you for being here. Yes, put your name in the chat, subscribe and share. We have Kevin Milburn. What's wrong with me tonight? Okay, Kevin Milburn. We have him. He is a producer, motivational speaker, author, certified life coach, content creator. Kevin Milburn. Let me just say this. I know him for we worked in ministry together. Before I give you his resume, he and his wife. Thank you, Francine from Pomona. Yes, we have. Yeah, Uncle is your uncle. Yes, welcome. Thank you. We worked in ministry together many years ago. Adams and La Brea. Some of y'all know what Adams and La Brea was and is. And so he and his beautiful wife, we was in ministry together, and my sister and I she was actually the person that was a coordinator of their wedding. We was talking about that was over 20 some odd years ago in Pasadena. We have Renetta Coleman from LA. Welcome, Renetta. Thank you for coming in. Yes, thank you for that. And so it's just a pleasure to see how they've blossomed, how they've grown, how he's grown in the giftings and talents that he has. He is dynamic, creative, and a community leader driven by a passion for inspiring, motivating, and uplifting others. As an owner of Milburn Associates Entertainment Group, a boutique media production and premier event planning company, Kevin specializes in creating content and experiences that resonate deeply with audiences and empower individuals to reach their full potential. He has an extensive resume, but what we're going to be focusing on tonight is that he is the founder and executive director of Caring Hearts Network. He's going to share a little bit what that is and how that came into being. Support for family caregivers through programs like the CHN Family. And then he's an author. Look, the man is bad. Okay. Okay, he's bad. All right. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a businessman. He's anointed by God, and he cares for people. How about that? Let's put your hands together and welcome to the stage, Kevin. Okay, here go my Milburn. Hey, welcome.
Wait, hold on. Am I?
I got you. I unmuted you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, listen, it is exciting to be with you on tonight. You are doing amazing and fabulous things. We go way back. Yes. And yes. So it's exciting to see what you're doing, impacting people's lives, connecting, partnering. And that's what we're doing tonight, partnering. There's some, okay. So when Zachary, who logged on and you said hello to Zachary, that's my nephew, Zachary Moore. Hey, Zachary, thank you for supporting tonight.
Yes, welcome. We're glad to have him tonight. And I am so glad to have you tonight. You guys don't forget to put your name, let us know where you are from in the chat. And then also you are welcome to put your questions in as they come up, all right? This is a very, comfortable, safe environment. And we're just having a conversation about his book and his journey. All right. Okay. So let's start off like this. How about this? Kevin, I was reading your book, and let me just tell you, it brought up a lot of memories of my own personal journey. Caring, which is what birthed this whole support group, because I didn't have a support group. um, outside of
I know. I get
you know what I
it.
mean? You know, we didn't have a
Yeah.
well, outside of family, but you know, it's a different kind of thing when you have somewhere you can go and kind of just be around people that are experience, people that may not know you, that with like experience. So, why did you write your book, Mom, Me? And I always say this wrong. If you know, I am educated, but I still get tongue tied. I'm just saying.
Yeah, me
Alzheimer's.
mama now. Me mama now. Yeah. You know what? I to be quite honest, it wasn't I didn't set out to write a book. I was journaling.
Mhm.
I was on this journey by myself. And I accepted it. I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Just to give you some backstory, my mother was in her 50s when she started going into early onset dementia, and so
Mhm.
as a young man, yeah, and it didn't really show any signs. I was out of high school. I was in the space in my life that I was living in. I was the lead singer for a top 40 band, traveling around the country, and trying to live my best life.
Uh-huh.
Trying to. I wanted to be an R&B singer, so I was doing what I had to do so I could be the next Bobby Brown or Albie Shore. I'm dating myself when I say those ages or those names. Um, and so I had built a successful, along with my band, we were traveling, we were playing at some of the biggest clubs in the country, all the way from New York, Toronto, Canada, all of California. And so we played in Caesar's Tahoe. We were in Vegas. And so it was a cool life. I came home after one tour, just to come home, visit with my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was living with us at the time, and I came. I put my luggage down, and I started my whole process of going through the house, kissing mom and kissing Grammy, and getting ready to cook them some little snack. And my mother said a comment, and then she said it like 10 minutes later,
Mhm.
and then she said it. Hi, Mr. Dunn. Hello, how are you? It's good to see you. Thank you for being on tonight. And so my mother, she kept repeating herself. So I went and I asked my grandmother. I said, "Grammy, mom is repeating herself. What's going on?" She's, "Oh, she's been doing that a lot. I don't know. Maybe she's forgetting." So I was like, okay, note to self. And then I started getting ready for my tour. I had at least about 4 days, and this was the moment when I knew something was wrong. My mother had asked me come in because she was still working. She was still
Mhm.
working, going to her job. She asked me, "Where's the ironing board?" And I said, "No, no, the iron." And I said, "Well, the iron, it's in mom. It's with the ironing board. It's where it's
Mhm.
always been."
Mhm.
And she said, "No, I can't find the iron." And so I thought that was strange. And I was looking around for the iron, couldn't find the iron. She got ready for work. She left for work. I went in to see what my grandmother wanted for breakfast. I went into the kitchen and I opened the refrigerator, and there was the iron. And
Mm.
I knew something that was
Mhm. Mhm.
the alarm, for
Mhm.
me. And so, because my mother raised me to be a man of faith. My mom, I mean, listen, she was a woman of God, and she was, there was no question about it,
Mhm. Mhm.
in our home. And so that night, I was desperate, and I was like, "Lord, you got to show me what's wrong with my mom. I don't get it. I don't know what's happening." I'm in tears, crying, and I fell asleep in a deep sleep. And
Mm.
get this. This is how faithful. Now, see, because we're believers. This is
Right.
how faithful. I fell asleep, and about 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up to this documentary about Alzheimer's and people who are
Wow.
professionals
Wow.
who who are in the process, and it
Wow.
played their stories. And I sat there and I
Wow.
said, "Oh my goodness, that's what this is.
Wow.
That's what this is." And
Wow.
so that started the journey. So here it is. My mom's in her 50s. I'm in my early 20s. And so I'm going through this process with my
Wow.
mother. I'm coming out. I'm the youngest of four siblings. And so the other difference is that there's 18 years, 17 years, and 13 years gap between, I was the surprise baby to my parents' marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that too even had its, God had his plan,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so here I am. I called my agent. I told my agent and my manager that I can't. I need to. Something's happening with my mother. I can't go on the road right now. I can't go back. You're gonna have to figure something out. I got to take care
Mm-hmm.
and see what's going on with my mother. Long story
Mm-hmm.
short, we found out that she was in the early stages of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And that started the process. She retired from her job. There was a lot of things I didn't know, because when you start the journey, it's a lonely walk. Because and like even like my sisters and my brother, we had never we didn't expect. Now I come from a family, we take care of our loved ones. Like
Mm-hmm.
my great grandmother, my grandmother took
That's
care
what we
of her.
do. Yes, we
Yeah,
take that's an innate trait that for the most part in our families that we do. We take care of our, we don't send them, we don't put
absolutely.
them in homes and things
No,
like
no,
that. They live with us.
no.
Yeah.
No, we
Uh-huh.
don't do homes, and we
Uh-huh.
take care of them. And so
Uh-huh.
I was already on that trajectory because our family had took care of our matriarch, my
Uh-huh.
great grandmother Iola Amanda Goodwin, who was 102 when she passed.
Wow.
We wouldn't no.
Yeah.
We had road. So I became an early caregiver in high school. In so on the weekends my grandmother would go to her home and I would get the privilege to stay with my great grandmother on the weekends. And it was a blast. I was like, yes, I'll stay, So we are a family who take care of our own and, and
Mm-hmm.
unapologetically. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to my mother, we hadn't been in this situation in someone that was so young. And like when I think about my mom in her 50s, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, And so we started the process, there was no help,
Mm-hmm.
and when you go to the doctors back then, and I'm not sure, I've heard that it's very similar. They didn't want to give you the diagnosis of Alzheimer's because that would cause you to have to ask for disability. It's like a systematic kind of
Right.
thing,
Right.
Um, so in that process, like I said, I did me, mom, and Alzheimer's was the Lord one day just gave me because I was under so much pressure. I just started writing, and I started writing like different scenarios, different things, my feelings, my emotions. So we're going through this journey. I've actually put everything about me on the back burner, my music,
Mm-hmm.
whatever things that I want, and that's a thing that happens. And one thing that I have a caregivers conference that I produce every November. It's a caregivers conference for those to come. One, we embrace the caregiver, we love on the caregiver,
Mm-hmm.
and then those that need to have the caregiving conversation because people are afraid to have the caregiving conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling people, now listen, you need to have the conversation with your children and so on and so forth. So when that time comes, I always say either in a lifetime, you're going to either be a caregiver or need a caregiver. And it doesn't mean they're not professing, oh, I'm going to be sick. But anybody who's had their wisdom teeth out and they needed somebody to make some soup for
Mm-hmm.
them,
You're
that's
a
a
caregiver.
caregiver.
It's called
That's
a
a
it's called
caregiver.
a caregiver. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm just
Kevin,
like
Kevin,
connecting.
Kevin. Let me ask you this. This is
Yes,
awesome. Let me ask you this, Kevin. You mentioned that you were coming out of high school. Because
yes,
I understand now why because your book reads like a memoir,
it is. Yes,
and
yes, yes,
an expression of your journey, but it reads like a tribute to your mother.
yes.
And
Oh,
it is very, very touching the way your book reads. So you guys got to make sure y'all get it. He gonna tell you how you can get the book
yes,
later.
yes,
But
absolutely, absolutely.
yes, so I understand because journaling is very therapeutic. I encourage
Yes,
in my counseling session. So you said you journal, right?
yes,
So
yes,
one of the things that I did notice that you talked about, and I want to because I do know I have some people, some that clients that I work with, and one of the things that they battle with is leaving their loved one and having to go to work. And you don't have to give all the details. You kind of talk about
sure.
it in your book, and I want you to share a little bit about that and how you were able to, how did you navigate through that process?
You know what? It was, first of all, it was, you got to do what you got to do, right? I felt horrible, because again, we when we moved here to Los Angeles and we lived on Dayton Boulevard and we had an apartment upstairs, and it was gated in so that she couldn't, and so I would be on, to be quite honest, I was on pins and needles while at work. Now, the thing that helped me tap into having some kind of peace was my my faith, But I would put her snacks out. I would take the knobs off the stove. I would do the things that I needed to do so that she was protected. And so dealing with me, I think there was a level of, I lived in a level of fear, I lived in a space of still, and one of the things that I stayed, if I was able to give my younger me some advice, I would have not stayed polarized because of the event.
That's good.
Like I stayed polarized that I could not believe that my mother was dealing with Alzheimer's. So I stayed polarized, which then had me fearful, and instead of just embracing, saying this is what this is, and that I don't have any control or any power in it, but to do what I can do, is that's to show my mother love. I took her for walks. I still treated her like nothing was wrong. I did her makeup, and no one really knew anything was wrong until she maybe spoke and said something off, and so, and I would play if I would take her to dinner, we would do things, and I would play it off because, my mother protected me. You know what I'm saying? My mother was my protector, and so I felt like she is owed everything that I have to protect her, and shield her in this moment. And she, so I led a support group. I went to be in a support group early on as a man, and then the people in the group asked me to be the lead of the support group, and only because. And one of the gentlemen who was there, who expressed, or the wife was explaining what he expressed, was, it's like when you have Alzheimer's, it's like being in a glass house, or a glass house, and you know what to do on the inside, but your brain doesn't tell your body to do on the outside, but on the inside. And so I was like, oh my goodness, that moment helped me in viewing my mother or helping my mother. That's why it's important to get in a support group or connect yourself with like-minded people, so that when you're not strong enough, you have enough people to help you and navigate, whether that means crying. I cried in a group one time, and I was like, and that's a part of it. But again, I think because I was so polarized, I stayed in a place for so long.
I think that is so awesome to talk about that, because oftentimes what happened, thank you for saying that, and thank you for all of you in the chat. They're talking about you are journeying through the journey of being a caregiver, and the experience of it, and how Kevin's transparency has been a blessing. I think it's so important to talk about the fact that particularly when we believe and pray for an outcome of healing, which makes it difficult, we feel guilty or we feel conflicted with acknowledging that something is actually going on, and it may not turn out the way we would like and hope. How would you speak to that? What are some of the things? I know you said you would tell your younger self to and embrace it, but what would you say to the audience tonight in terms of when you're in that conflict, that war?
I will say this, and to be quite honest, I was mad.
Thank you.
I was mad. I was very upset. I watched my mother serve in ministry and church and Youth for Christ, going down to counsel people and I could not believe. I mean, and I'm going to be quite honest. I was like, God, is this what my mother gets? Is this what my mom gets? Is this, like, are you kidding me? Are you for real?
Yes.
Like, you know, and I even like, I mean, like, we got
Yes.
people out here who are
Yes.
doing all kinds of stuff. And my mother, my mom, oh,
Let me say, Kevin, I so concur with you. I went through the same thing, and I'm sure that those that are in the audience may be feeling the same thing. Those that will look at this a little bit later and will have that same thing. You're mad, and then you feel like you can't say I'm mad because you ain't supposed to be mad. No.
listen, I talk about that in my book because I'm like, so I'm mad, but I know my mom wouldn't want me to be mad at you. I know my mom would, even though I am, I'm hot. You know what I'm saying? It's got me questioning, you know, like, well, what is this whole point in serving you if this is, what's up? What's this about? And so one thing that I would say to those that are in the journey, be honest. Be honest with your feelings. It's okay to be mad. It's even okay to be like frustrated. You know, like I like my mom, she would like, I would put her plate there and then she would get up and take the plate and then put it in the trash can, you know, and I would be like, oh my gosh. So then I had to learn how to sit at the table with her and make it like a game to like eat your vegetables and that kind of thing. She did this thing where she fed our dog. We didn't have a dog. So she was like, and I'm like, okay, and there's the food on the ground. You know what I mean? And so that you have peace, you got to go along with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I even had moments when I said, well, Mom, what did you do today? She said, oh, I drove in the country. And I said, you did? Well, what did you see? I mean, okay, either I'm frustrated. You know, there's some people and I have sessions with families. They're like, that's ridiculous. You know, I don't want to keep her in that world. I'm trying to bring her. I'm like, no, you got to go to the world that she's living in and say, okay, well, you know what? Next time I want to go. I think I want to go to the country. And you said there was the green trees, and there were, and you know, and so it's a process. But I think I would do more harm to my mental wellness and my trying to go against what her process is. You know, so if she said she had ice cream. She had ice cream. I'm like, well, what flavor did you have? Did you, you know, what? Hey, you know, that's what you didn't have ice cream. Then what are you talking about? There was no ice cream there. You were sitting here all the, you know, no, you know, you got to lean into it and be okay with leaning into it. You know.
So let me ask you this. That's awesome. That's good. I love it. We have Miss Ray 60 and Fabulous. I think that's how I say that. She says, oh my God, I felt this way when I found out my mother was diagnosed with dementia in 2021. I was angry and sad. It's so important to acknowledge. And scared, you're scared. And then one of the other things, you have back-to-back trauma. You talked about your you got to talk about it.
So with this,
without telling it all, let them make them.
You know, so I'm taking care of my mother. My mother's father gets sick, and then I have to make a decision to go, and I'm juggling my mom. I thank God for my sister and because my mother and my grandmother were in Bakersfield while I was here in Los Angeles trying to take care of things. My grandfather had 5 months to live. Long story short, by the time I buried my grandfather in 95, my grandmother in 96, and then my mother in 99. So all of this trauma, and then, you know, really trying to support my mom because she really didn't understand that her parents weren't here. So she would say, you know, I gotta go visit my daddy. I haven't heard from my mother. You know, and having to say, well, Mom, you know, they passed away, you know, when you were at the funeral, they're showing pictures and, you know, so I didn't allow it to be heartbreaking, even though it was heartbreaking. But in my journaling, there were some things, I will say this, there were things that were supposed to go, I'll say the things that made it in the book were supposed to be in the book. And there were some things that were just for me. If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
You know, and so there were some things I absolutely didn't like Mother's Day after a certain time. You know, I didn't like certain, you know, the reminder that people's mom was still, you know, and so this is another while caregiving. I think being honest in the journey, whatever the scenario is, it's embracing the now and the end also. Whatever that looks like. Not being scared, not being, but like I remember in the last maybe month of my mom's life, I was like, we drove to the beach and at sunset. And I had her get her blanket and I would face and we would be looking. And sometimes it's taking in those special and wonderful moments. Look, I believe that caregivers are chosen. You know what I'm saying? You're chosen for this moment in life, and how you navigate in it. You have the power to navigate. Like before, I fell into like almost like, not, I don't want to say sadness, but I fell into this thing like it was the end of the world. So I'm always.
I want you to pause with that, because that was this. You're actually walking into the next question. You said you didn't want to say sadness, right? And so, caregiving, particularly when we're caregiving for our loved ones that are it's dealing with a chronic illness, there's a certain amount of sadness and grief. There's a process. The grieving process starts before. How do we say? Well, before an actual physical.
It's what I call living grief.
Yes.
And I mentioned that also. I was grieving my mother in a space that she would never be the mother that I was never going to get that mother. So I was in the space of living grief, and so I was there.
How did you make peace with that? How did you make peace with the disappointment, the anger, the mama's not going to be this way no more? I'm being hit back to back to back. God, what in the whole ham and cheese are you doing? No,
right. Right. But you know what? I think love was the common denominator. My love for my mother. Listen, my mother went through a divorce. My mother, I was 3 months old when my mother split from my father, and my siblings, the whole thing. And my mother was not only my rock, but she was my parent, my shero. So when all that she put in me came up while she was going through it, I was not, I remember my dear aunt Deanna, who passed away, and I remember my grandfather being in the hospital, and I remember my grandfather had an accident on himself, and I asked the nurses, I asked everybody to leave so that I can clean him up. Well, my aunt came and she said, "What are you doing? That's what they're here for." And I said, "No, I want him to still have his dignity. I want him to still, And so that's how I was raised, and I didn't want her to feel as if things were wrong. I try to make things as perfect and palatable as I could, even from the time when she got diagnosed during that process with breast cancer. And we had to go through chemotherapy. Now, the blessing was my grandfather was like, "Listen, you take care of my doves," and so I didn't have to work. I could just take care of my mother and my grandmother during that season. And I remember my mom seeing, I was helping her get dressed, and there was where the mastectomy happened. And she said, "Oh, when did that happen?" And in that moment, I realized that she came to herself in that moment to recognize, and I had to sit her down on the bed, and I said, "Well, Mom, listen, this is what happened." And so it is the everything she invested in me sustained me to be able to walk in that space and that journey with her. So even some of my feelings, I had to put them. I couldn't even face some feelings because the love and the passion that I had for my mother in this process, and not making it, because this is the thing, we can make it personal and make it about us as opposed to about what they're really going through. And so I had to even learn, and I don't take any credit. I think it was the Lord who just showed me ways to navigate my feelings and my emotion, as I would always say. Well, I submit my mind, my will, and emotion to you, because I don't have nothing for you today. I'm like, this is too much for me, God, or this is, and he would give me special moments sitting on the couch. I would fall asleep and be asleep, and hear my mother would be rubbing my head, say, "Oh, there's my baby. I was looking for you. I was
Oh,
looking for you." And
uh-huh.
and it was
Yeah.
special moment. So instead of leaning into the sadness, the depression, and I don't. And listen, it was they don't get it twisted. Sadness and depression was always knocking,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
frustration. And I'm not saying that I did not lean into it, and I didn't have days and I'm like, I'm done. And even days when I said, Lord, just take us both now. Just if this is gonna, can, you know,
Let's just go.
I,
Yes, 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 yes. I got it. I got it. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Kevin, please put it in the chat and we will ask him. This is powerful. I like this, your transparency. Um, you touched on when you would just fall asleep sometime. And so it's so important that you take time for yourself. And one of the most difficult
yeah.
things and challenges is carving out that time for yourself. What would you say to the caregiver that is feeling guilty about taking time for self, feeling like how are they going to take time for themselves? There is no
Sure,
time. What would you say
sure.
to the caregiver?
I will say this: you got to know who your village is. You
Mm,
cannot allow yourself to suffer on an island by yourself. Mental wellness is key and important. You're only as good as you are healthy to the person that you're taking care of. So it is a must. You cannot allow yourself to be on the back burner. You have to know who your village is. You have to be okay to say help whoever that village is, and say, can you sit for 30 minutes? And don't be listen, go get your special tea, go get your special crumpets, go sit in your chair outside in the sun, and don't feel guilty, and
yes.
one thing that my sister said to me, my mother was going through a process and she popped off and said something to me, and I was devastated. I can't believe my mom said that to me. And my sister said, listen, Kev, she said, mom in her right mind would never, ever, ever say that to you. You know that it is Alzheimer's, and I call Alzheimer's Al in my book. But
Yes.
the point of it is that as a caregiver, you've got to take care of yourself. And don't be ashamed to taking care of yourself. Matter of fact, put it on the calendar. Make calendar dates with yourself to go and get your favorite ice cream. Say, I'll be right back. And you come and stay with mama and uncle or whoever it is for 45 minutes. I just need a break. But find out who your village is. Find out who your village is. Lean into your village. Don't be afraid to say help. I need help. And take care of yourself. Reading, baths, whatever you need to do. Pamper yourself. Pamper you. There's nothing wrong with pampering yourself. Nothing.
Awesome. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. You have to take the time to pamper yourself. Um, Purpose to grow says Fresno. Yeah, awesome. Yes. We have to take care of ourselves. Let me walk you. It was something that stood out that you said, and I want to talk about that because this is another difficult challenge. I know it was difficult for me, specifically with my mother, because I felt like I was setting her up for death, or I was taking it all in my own hands. So I'm gonna read
Mm,
this. I'm gonna read this passage from your book. You said your failing health was more than I could manage at home, and the
mm,
only other choice was hospice.
mhm.
The insurance would no longer cover your stay. I felt like I couldn't take any more, and I didn't want to continue seeing you suffer. I made the decision. What would you
Yeah.
say?
Well, I will say this: there comes a time when a decision has to be made, and that moment was, I'll say, was the hardest, but the most freeing moment of being able to make the decision, because I couldn't take care of her at home, even though I'm like, oh, I'm down, I could take care of her at home, but she needed 24-hour care. And the doctor
Mhm.
wasn't going to allow me to do that. It wasn't going to allow me to do that. And so, for those of you that will face having to make decisions, I think, it's important to have the reality in your mind that you will have to make a decision, and then know that I will have to make a decision, but I don't have to take ownership of this moment because again, this is beyond my control. This has nothing to do with the power. Because if I had the power, I would make you well. You know, you wouldn't be sick if I had the power. This is beyond. So preparing yourself for every level. Assess your scenario, assess what that looks like, assess from beginning to ending, and don't let it surprise me. Like, because we always say that we death. You can't never plan for it, and it's right. Well, I got the call, and they said, mom transitioned, and I came around that corner in the living room, and I fell to my knee. Well, yeah, I mean, and then after that, I was like, okay, now let's get to business, and I was still pulling from my mother's strength, still pulling from the whole thing, because really that's what their job is. Whoever your loved one, whether it's a parent, a loved one, a spouse, whatever, there is a certain power that you get. That's the love that you get to carry through the process, carry through this event or this moment. And, we're all just supporting actors in this, and so, like, if I had got to write a different script, of course, my mother would be right here with seeing my sons, being my wife, and so, but she didn't get to see all that. She didn't, but I just believe that the thing that's in me, I'm able to give to them, and that represents my mother,
Awesome. That's awesome. I think that's so true. We don't have the say on when and how, or when the time of was, but all, because you talk about it too, is give space, right, for yourself to walk through that journey, and to embrace the fact that mama or daddy or grandparent is really learning how to embrace that part of the journey. I can remember, and you tell me what you think about this. I can remember during the latter stages of my mother's life in particular, and my grandmother, now that I think about it, every weekend they would come back and they would say, "She's still here," and I was like, "Of course she's still here. What you think?" No.
Right.
It was always so surprised. It was always so surprised. However, when we finally said to Mama, "It's okay. You don't have to fight no more. You've taught us. We're gonna be okay."
Yeah.
I know you're tired.
So listen, my experience is very similar, but what drove you to that? Because I didn't plan to say that to my mother. I was there. My aunt called me at work and said, "Honey, they say it's time for you to come." And we were there. And here I am. I got to the door. I kind of lost it. And then my cousin, she helped me get myself together. And the nurse said, no, she can still hear you. So don't, she can still hear you. And so I went over and I kissed her and I said, "Mom, I thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. You've been such an amazing mother, and I'm gonna love you. I'm never gonna forget you for all the things that you've done." And this came out of my mouth, and I didn't plan for this to come out of my mouth. It just came out, and I said, "Mom, I'm gonna be okay. You can go. You can go."
Those were exact same words you said. It was. I think it was. You know what, Kevin? It was one. I knew she did not want to live like that. That was one. And two, I asked her. I said, "You're tired," and she nodded. And I knew she was tired.
I knew
she was tired. And as much as I, wanted her to stay and me take care of her no matter what, I knew. And that's when because I had no idea that I was going to say that either. And I also think that my heart began to be prepared for that. Look, Mama's not coming out on this side. She's not going to be healed on this side. I didn't like it. It didn't feel good. You know what I'm saying? It didn't feel good at all because I was just believing. It still don't, because I had to fight the tears back just then. No, it still don't.
Okay.
That part right there, it still doesn't. Because we want this here. We want this matter.
Oh, absolutely.
To be right here. We want that. Picking up the phone and call. There's been some situations I've been like, dang it, I wish my mama was here. No.
I say it all the time. I say it all the time. I'm like, man, Mom, Lord, if I could just hear. I remember I went through a phase, and that's why I really encourage people in their caregiving process to record, to use their phone, to make videos. I went through a moment where one day I forgot my mom's voice, and I was freaking out, and I was like, oh my God, Lord, please don't let me forget my mom's voice. I can't stand it. And lo and behold, I come home, I'm washing clothes one day, and the dryer is going like this, and I hear this boom, and this big crate full of cassettes that I had, that my mother had, that I was going to get rid of. I start putting them back in there, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know why I still have that. And there was a cassette of my mother singing on it. My point is that my prayer was answered. It was a moment, again, that I needed. And so for those of you that there are going to be moments and you're going to need to hear your loved ones' voices, and as a caregiver, don't be afraid to make it memorable. Make your process memorable with your loved one. And so, like, I can talk about the dog that we never had that my mom was feeding, and I can laugh at it and be like, Mama, okay, and sometimes I'm sitting at the table with my boys and my wife, we're out, and I crack up because I look over and I'm like, oh my gosh, and so again, you have the power and the control in the narrative. You know that your loved one loves you. You know that. And so for your own peace of mind, your mental wellness, everything that about you that's going to be here, focus. Take some time to focus on you, and that means, and I say this too, not only physically, not only you're physically fit and financially fit and mentally fit. You got to think about those things, and those are some of the things that I was so caught up in the moment. I didn't think about my tomorrow because I was so caught up in the moment. And if I had planned different and done things, and someone told me, shake yourself and look in the future, and I would have probably went about some things in different ways.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's what, and I'm glad you shared that, because I was going to ask you, the next question was, what was, looking back at it, I know one of the things was the polarization, but what would be some of the advice that you would give yourself looking back into the audience and sharing that with the audience? And you did that. Is there anything else? Because it's important. The finances is very, 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 very important. Oh, we don't like to talk about that part of it, but it can be.
And I think, planning for the future. Those of you that are out there, plan for the future. The financial thing is really important, but you've got to be mentally, financially, and think about your health. Are you taking your vitamins? Are you taking the things that you need? Are you going to the doctor? Are you getting your checkups? Are you doing what you need to do to take care of you? Because that's what's important. Physically, mentally, and financially. If you can put $100 away a month, I'm just saying, I don't care if when the time comes, whether it's 5,000 or 500, that 500, it makes a difference. And so my point is, for those of you that are out there, you deserve vacations, you deserve spa moments, you deserve those. Don't be afraid to treat yourself to a spa moment. You might say, I don't have money like that. Put $10 away. Put whatever you got to do.
That's why Starbucks. Stop the Starbucks.
Right. And see, and that's why I, with Caring Hearts Network, I established that, but that was really birthed from my experience of being on this journey and watching so many people be loners and taking it in and wearing it, where you look older than the person that you're taking care of because you have internalized everything. There's no joy. There's no happiness. Look, smile. Look in the mirror and smile at yourself. Tell yourself, oh, I'm a winner. This is not going to take me out. This is not, oh, no, you don't. You got to be determined to live even for you, while
Yes.
you are doing the most amazing thing as a caregiver. It is amazing. The strength that's in you. You are an amazing. Don't. It's no. Listen, you're amazing, and the fact that you took on the responsibility and that you're doing it with pride and strength. But just don't forget, while you're doing it, don't forget to do for you, because you are the most important factor as this thing processes. Because without you being fully mentally fit, physically fit, and financially, you can't really give much to the person that you love because you're tired. And take a nap. It's okay to take a nap.
Take a nap.
My mother was a roamer. She was a roamer. And you know what I would do? I would get this little basket of snacks and I would lay on the couch and my legs would be over her and she would have her little snacks and I would have my pillow and I would go to sleep and I would, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I knew that she was sitting there and she would, and I could hear sometimes, oh my, I'd have her TV program on. She loved TBN. So I hear her singing. I knew she's okay. I knew that, well, listen, you got to do what you got to do, right? You know, but the thing that is you got to get some rest. You got to get rest for yourself because you're driving the car, you're taking it to the appointments, you're doing it. So you got to take some rest for yourself. And it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty. And even if you need a moment, I did several times. We would drive to the beach and I'd have the car door locked and I would just lower my seat back a little bit and get a little squeeze while she's looking at the birds and the water. You know, so you got to do what you got to do, but it's going to be okay.
That's good. Thank you so much, Kevin. Now tell the people how to get your book, because let me tell you, it's a good one.
So listen, it is available on Amazon. And tonight you can actually go to also Milburn and Associates Entertainment Group, and we'll have it available on there too. And those of you can hit me on my, if you need, I got some specials for you. So yeah, Amazon, MilburnEntertainment.com, and those of you friends and family, just hit me up. You know, I want to make sure that you guys know that every story, everybody has a story. And just because we already know some of the things that are processing, that means that you have the strength and the power to walk in this place, in this space, and you're going to be okay. But don't forget to love, laugh, and live.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. And your organization, Caring Hearts?
Caring Hearts Network. You can actually go to www.caringheartsnetwork.com. You get to see all the things that we are doing, and we're excited. Our Caregivers Conference will take place this November. Again, those of you listen for it. We're going to be every November, which is National Caregivers, Family Caregivers Month. In November, we have this is going to be our 6th Family Caregivers Conference. You don't want to miss it because we're going to be pampering the caregivers. We're going to be giving information to families and those that are tapping on the doors. To a senior citizen, we want to give you information to help you navigate while you're processing and your children are processing. And so we have so many special people. We have insurance. We have mental wellness, we have financial wellness, with all the things and all the key points that we touched tonight, we have at the conference, and you'll walk away uplifted, inspired, and motivated.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your story tonight. I appreciate you stopping, taking time out of your schedule. It was powerful. It was needed. It was transparent, and it's good to hear from the male energy that's sharing. There's a lot of men out there and women, but there's a lot of men that's caring for their loved ones, and no one really, for whatever reasons, not a lot of talk about it. But I want to say thank you. Appreciate you. You guys, make sure you get his book. I had the Kindle version, but as he said, it's available on Amazon. You can go to his website, and we'll make sure that we put the information in our notes in the section, so you can contact him and reach out to him. Again, thank you. Hey, by the way, don't forget to like and share and subscribe. We meet every second Thursday. Is our caregivers support group, and then we have our grief support this every last Friday of the month. All right. Nice. Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate you. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we will see you on the next go round. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Y'all, me and this technology. Thank you for choosing Center of Empowerment as your support as you journey through grief and loss. If you need additional help and services, do not hesitate to reach out to us at www.coinpm.org. Again, that's www.coinpm.org. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.